so funny. Hang on, we're telling your followers to join your video. Welcome, welcome. What is today? Hump Day, Wednesday. I'm gonna do a couple. I gotta do 2 lives today because I missed yesterday. I had to get some rest. I was really tired. You all saw me. What day was that? Monday, Tuesday when I was outside. I was just tired. So I had to get some rest yesterday, rejuvenate myself, reconnect to the spirit, and just allow it to energize my body. So I have to do 2 today, okay? So I'm doing this one in the morning, and then I'm going to, inshallah, do one maybe later this afternoon or this evening. We'll see. We'll see what the Spirit says. Couple of things you all asked me about. You guys ask a lot of questions about overcoming difficulty and challenges that people have. But, you know, it's like that's the majority of the coaching questions I get. And so I find it interesting when I see those kind of patterns. Overcoming difficulties, dealing with haters, that's a popular one. So the root of a lot of our challenges is this. Many of us have faith in God. We believe in certain things. We have a lot of faith. Welcome, Muhammad Jigado. Where you chiming in from, Muhammad? Here's the root of the problem, or one of the roots of the problem, or some of the roots that are underneath the problem. We believe in God. You know, for those of us as Muslims, we believe in the 3 that back us. Those of us that are Christians, we believe in Jesus. But many times we don't believe in ourselves. And we don't believe in ourselves to the extent that we don't understand that we showed up on the planet for a reason. And we're not just here for nothing. God has something very special that he wants to do and express through each and every one of us. And I think sometimes we forget that, right? Because we have so many, you know, what we're doing in our lives, especially those of us that are spiritual, those of us that are Muslims in the nation. There's the idea to continue to represent and to live the life and do the best we can in terms of conduct, and you know, and then there's just figuring out what you showed up on the planet to do. Why are you here? What are we supposed to be doing? Many of us don't understand that a lot of things are a process. So you're working in this position, you got this post in this organization. And I think we forget that sometimes that's a process. Sometimes that's a training ground. We're not all going to be riding on the mother plane. Some of us going to be down here establishing trade, commerce, saving people, fighting the war, whatever happens. Some of us are going to be doing that. And so I think it's important for us to figure out, why did Allah say that one sperm out of the billion sperms that became me would be the one that would swim through the hostile environment, overcome all the odds, get to the egg first, and then create what is me that my parents then named? I mean, why? Why not one of the other billion sperms? Why? And I think that's what we have to figure out. And so when we start talking about businesses and you guys are DMing me about haters and difficulties, I realize that a lot of times we don't have a personal mission. We don't have a personal strategic plan for our lives. We're following somebody else's plan. You know, we're in the nation and there's a bigger plan. we're in the church and there's a bigger plan. We're in our sorority or we're in our company. We're a corporate person and there's a bigger plan. But how do you as an individual fit into that plan? And you want to be busy about creating that and trying to study yourself so that you can figure out who you are authentically, what moves you, what makes you healthy, what makes you unhealthy, what makes you sad, what bothers you, what are the key traits about yourself that maybe it's something you don't like that could very well be an asset. What is that? I'll tell you something for myself. One of the things that I always hated about myself growing up was the fact that I was very sensitive. I'm still extremely sensitive. I would get so sensitive that if something wasn't right, I would get a headache and have to go lay down. And I remember this as the young as maybe 6, 7 years old. Or I'd get a stomach ache. I'd see it impacting my body in some kind of way. So I remember being constipated, but I remember just being upset and sick over something that happened. I remember I'd get a headache or even sometimes a nosebleed. And as I got a little older, I started to kind of dull off the sensation so that I didn't get so much of a debilitating impact on my body, but it was still impactful. And so I just hated it about myself, and it was nothing I could do about it. I couldn't turn it off. I just couldn't stand it. But what I did begin to notice as early as probably grammar school was that in school, when I'd be working on projects or I'd have to do a book report or something like that, that I was able to see things that other people couldn't see. I was able to be a little bit more detailed and sensitive if it was a character we were discussing, whatever. I love world history, so it was so easy for me to learn about the Tao Te Ching and just go right into that environment, and I could just feel the sensations of the environment and the smells and the people and the vibration. And I knew that about myself, and I would use it like when I needed it. It's kind of like a superpower. I'd go, okay, I got that. I use it when I need it. When I got to high school, same thing. But when I got in college, I really tried to just turn it off. I didn't want to be sensitive anymore. I couldn't stand it. By the time I graduated from college and then came into the nation, I was the same. I just didn't like the being so sensitive. It just bothered me. And when I say sensitive, the reason why I didn't like it is because people would look at that as negative. You know, they would look at it like it was weak or like there was something wrong because you're so sensitive. That's kind of how I was identifying with it. And so I just didn't like it. And I remember sitting on maybe my second or third corporate consulting project. And I remember sitting there, and I was sitting at a cubicle, because a lot of times when you go into these corporate consulting environments, they don't have a place for us to sit, right? So we're like the auditors or the IRS. We're just sitting wherever you tell us we can sit. And so sometimes they give us a conference room and we all pile in the conference room. Sometimes they'll tuck us away in cubes. And in this particular case, they had tucked us away on the side to some available cubicle space. And I had gotten there and I got my coffee like I do now. And I just remember thinking, I am waiting until the impact of what I feel becomes so sincere that I have to move. And I remembered one day, I was sitting at my grandmother's kitchen table, and she looked at me and I was crying. And she said, "Let me tell you something." And I was young. I had to be about 10. Because I just remember I probably was about 10. She said, "Let me tell you something." She said, "These niggas will kill you. You better figure it out." And I remember thinking, what? Why would somebody kill me? And what are we talking about? But it was probably, during that second project, after I'd gone to college, I'd worked at the National Center. I launched out on my own, trying to start my own business, still wrestling with this sensitivity. And I kind of got this epiphany of events, of my grandmother saying that. She also said something else to me. In the Catholic Church, when you have your first confession, I was sitting down with a piece of paper and I was trying to figure out what I was going to confess and to the priest for first confession. And she snapped her fingers. For those of you who know me, you know I cannot snap my fingers, but she snapped her fingers real hard. And because I asked her, I said, "What should I say?" And she said, "You don't tell that man nothing." She said, "You get in there and get upstairs and go talk to God, and you tell him. You have a conversation with him. But don't you go up in there and tell them all your business." And I'm like, what? Why do we even go to this church if we're not going to follow the instructions? I remember clearly saying that. So here I am on that project, that probably second or third project. And all of this was coming back to me. And it was almost like God was showing me why he made me so sensitive. And I started to think back and I said, when I'm sitting in these meetings, oftentimes I can see the things that they can't see. I can point out the things that they can't point out. I can move in a certain way because it's like I had certain antennas. And so instead of doing like you did as a child, where you take what comes to you and that energy that comes to you personally and you internalize it, use it as your compass and pay attention and convert this skill set that you don't like into an asset and a tool for yourself. And as I began to do that, I started to enjoy a lot of success. And it was just fascinating how it changed my life by going with that gift, going with what I used to hate that I didn't know actually was a gift. And as I got older, I learned how to be careful with what I expose myself to and how I think and what I watch on television, because of how, severely it would impact me. And then I learned that that skill was a very good skill in business. So I started coaching and consulting. Generally, I can talk to somebody, and as I'm coaching them, I can usually see at a level of detail sometimes that they can't see. In business, when it comes to building businesses, I can sort of see patterns and see things that are not obvious. I bring that to the table. Different projects that I've worked on, I've been able to solve some very complex problems related to something that I didn't really know technically, but because I could read the sensitivity and the energy just as I did when I was a child. But what was interesting is because I had turned it off, I had to like kind of relearn it again and reopen it up again. So why am I saying all of that? I'm saying all of that because a lot of us are excessively worried about haters and naysayers and people who are bothering us because we don't have a personal mission. We don't know those one or two skill sets that maybe we don't like about ourselves, or those one or two attributes about ourselves that maybe society says isn't good. Like society had said to me that being sensitive was bad. And because I didn't want to be associated with anything bad, I hated it. Some of us have certain things about ourselves that really, really are unique, that are important. And when we don't have a mission, and we don't have those things that we're working on, we're not studying ourselves, then those naysayers and those haters become bigger, right? I'm the kind of person that I can see a lot of times, motives and processes. I can see when somebody's trying to do something or freeze me out or whatever it is. And so instead of, and here's a promise that I made to God. When I first started to discover that this was an aspect of my personality that I was working for, I'll never forget it. It was my first mosque lecture after I had heard the minister, and I was sitting there. No, it wasn't my first. It was my first. Yeah, I think so. I think it was the first one. And I was sitting there and I said, Allah, if you help me figure out what to do with this thing about myself that I hate, then I will use it for you. And I will honor you with it. And I won't be judgmental. I won't even open my mouth when it's not necessary. And so I was sitting there making this promise to Allah. I said, I won't be mean with it. I mentioned my grandmother. She actually was what I would call a psychic. I'm just a sensitive person, but she was very psychic. Like you could walk in the house and she'd tell you everything about all the people you was just with, but she was mean with it. And so I said, Allah, if you allow me to develop that kind of skill, I promise you I won't be mean. I said, but this sensitivity, when I walk in the room and I can feel the people, that's why I don't do funerals a lot. I can feel the people's whole life when I'm sitting there at the funeral. So oftentimes I only go to funerals if I have to. And if I have a friend, a close friend, or someone who has a loved one that passes away, oftentimes if I go, I won't go to the body, or I just temper it. I figure it out like based on who the person is to me. If it's somebody close enough that I can just go to the repast and leave out, I'll do that. But oftentimes, I'm better at it now where I can sit there and literally I'm seeing the person's life, the people's lives, everything just passing in front of me and all these levels of detail. And sometimes it can be impactful physically, but I'm just playing with the gift and learning how to deal with it. And then Allah gives me these big projects to do where I have to be really sensitive to all these details and figure stuff out. So it can be a challenge. I'm also a very communal person, right? So if I got like a group of friends, or if I got a gym that I go to, that's my tribe. That's my thing. I'm communal like that. So that's a whole nother subject that we're going to talk about. But yeah, so when you're so excessively worried about the haters and the naysayers, a lot of it has become, walaikum salam, Nubi ala flow. A lot of it is because we just are way too focused on those people and their drama. And listen, a lot of times we don't realize that The reason why they're looking at you is because maybe you represent what they're not doing. I'm saying looking at you with hate or disgust or whatever. Maybe they don't want you around because of that. Maybe they don't want you around because, oh, thank you, sis. Maybe they don't want you around because you remind them of what they should be doing. I don't know. It could be any number of things, but we have to get over that and stop worrying about that. We really have to stop worrying about that. We have to start focusing on ourselves and going inside of ourselves and figuring out who we are. Because what's going to happen if we keep faking it, if we keep faking it at church and we keep faking it at the mosque and we keep faking it at work and we keep faking it in our organizations and different things that we do, at a certain point, we're going to get frustrated and it's going to severely impact us. Either we're going to start dying earlier than what we should be dying. We'll find ourselves sick with illnesses. We'll find ourselves sometimes just dealing with mental illness. Sometimes you become a hater, or you get jealous, or you become so narrow-minded and small-minded because you're not exploring the infinite wisdom that's within yourself. So, as business people, as entrepreneurs, as those of us that are developing new territories and who are industry disruptors and all of that, let's stop worrying about that kind of stuff. Let's stop having so many conversations about that. And the only time you really should be really discussing that kind of thing is when it's part of your strategy. If you're releasing a new product or service, or you have to go into this environment and you have to mine something out of it or figure out a situation, then you can start analyzing how people interact with you and what could be their issue, if there is one or there isn't one. But just for the amount of DMs that I get, I think you guys saw me asking for questions the other day, and just for the amount of DMs that I get, there's way too many about haters and naysayers. So I just wanted to say that there's something special about all of us. Okay, I'm talking and rambling. I didn't recognize y'all in the chat. I see you, Industry 5M, Rahima Say, Nubia LaFlo. I saw you give the greetings. KK for real, Much of Melanin, Frontline Art for Life, Bronzed 2, Tulip Hair, JB Ware, Muhammad Guidado. Welcome to all of you. Some of y'all have all these symbols together that I can't really make it to a word. So instead of 2970846Y or whatever. So, when I see those kind of things like on TikTok or Facebook, and a person ain't got no handle, they ain't got no picture, and their account is private, I just block them. Because you're not on here trying to be collaborative and join a tribe of good people and learn anything. You doing some spying, or you up to something shady. You could at least put a picture up there. You could at least put a username. You could at least do something so people know that you're real. And be careful with those. Some of those people are just stalkers and they're just trying to get in your business. I block them. I block them and delete them, because you should at least have a handle. You should be at something. And then you got a private account, sometimes no posts. Delete them. Okay. So let me know if you guys have any more questions. I think I got the ones out of the DM, and I think I addressed it just now, just about attributes about yourself that maybe you don't like or you don't find attractive, dealing with haters and naysayers. And look, like we say in our family, give them something to talk about. Because why are they talking about you? They're going to talk about you whether you're doing good, whether you're doing bad. You may as well kick butt and take names and give them something to talk about. Why not? Okay, so if you guys don't have any other questions, what else was I going to tell you? I was going to answer that. Some of you were asking me skincare questions, and maybe on the afternoon talk, I'll do some stuff about skincare. I love spa services and skincare. Not too long after I graduated from undergrad, I did a business development certification. It's like on a master's level. And we had to write up these portfolios and do these valuations. But first we had to create the business. And I created a spa and, wrote it up, put it together. And I used to own a Massage Envy in the Washington, D.C. area. Primarily, I wanted to learn the business from, that standpoint of how to put the systems and processes together. Being in a franchise was hard. I think when I open my next spa, I won't be in a franchise because there were a lot of things that I wanted to do. Like I wanted to decorate the lobby a certain way. I wanted to have certain kind of furniture, and they was looking in on my lobby from the corporate camera, and they called like, girl, you can't have that white couch and all this and that. You got to pick from our furniture and you can mix it up the way you want. But and then there were a lot of other services. So skincare, I'm not a 100% natural skincare person. I have a good friend who's a natural skincare chick. I like using certain moisturizers and serums just to help keep the skin even and things like that. And so we could talk about that. We could talk about skincare. We can talk about the spa industry and what are some of the things that I want to make sure that I have in my next spa and what kind of focus I'm working on it having. So I'm all about that health and wellness side of things. I've also been in the hardcore healthcare industry, so I know that game as well, if you will, in terms of just from the time you present as a patient and what your chief complaint is, all the way to the building, the politics and all that. I'm really deep in that industry. So that includes the wellness industry. So I can have that conversation. That's the majority of the consultations that I get are a lot of times people who are in that industry who want to transition. And so I understand how to help you transition. So yeah, we can have that conversation. And, in that spa industry, it includes like just weight management and weight loss. And, a lot of us are going, well, I'm eating one meal a day. But what I found, especially as I get older, that I have to find any excuse to move. And so what I learned is that like a good morning workout and then a nice break in the middle of the day, that, whether it's just a walk around the building or something like that. And then what I started doing now was like evening stretching and yoga. I used to do yoga earlier, but the stretching and yoga just to keep the movement. And then if I go somewhere, I try to park so I can walk or take the stairs. And I found that when I don't do that, then the weight just comes back quick. Even if I say, well, I'm not going to eat for 2 days. If I say, well, I'm just going to fast, my body's like, oh, okay, you're going to fast, so we're going to keep everything you ate last week with us. But so what I found is that my body needs movement and my body loves movement. And so just helping people with their own personalized approach so that they can understand what their body needs and what what is important for their skin. What part of it is genetics, what part of it is diet, what part of it is your thoughts and your mindset, So we'll talk about that. We can have that conversation. So anyway, thank you all for joining. This will be my first live today. I'll do another one this afternoon since I missed yesterday. And I mentioned at the top of this talk that I just had to get some rest yesterday and kind of just back off all the vibrations. And I was just tired. Much of Melanin said, what time this afternoon? I don't know. Let me see. Let me look at the calendar so I can... let's go with 4 o'clock Central Time. Okay. And we'll talk about, let's see. We'll talk about healthcare. We'll talk about spa industry. And we'll do some skincare conversation. Okay. So 4 o'clock Central Time. Let's plan that. Okay, peace and blessings, family, and assalamu alaikum. This has been fun interacting with you all in the morning, but I gotta go. All right, peace and blessings.